Hey guys, this is Lori with Ellem's Crafty Creations, and I am here to share two new albums with you. These are design team projects for countrycraftcreations.com. I have used the Authentique calendar collection, and I announced this on my Facebook page. What I've done here is I'm doing a series of 4 albums using this collection, and I'm breaking the year up into quarters. So this is the quarter 1 book, this is the quarter 2 book, and then in my next video I'll have quarter 3 and 4 books to share with you. So I used the large collection pack, so I think it's like $50, and it has all of the solids, all of the patterns, all of the cut aparts in the collection. And then what I did is I also added some of the a couple of sheets per album for the of the Authentique Spectrum like paper, accent paper. So it's like the coordinating cardstock that goes with all of their collections. So I'll show you that when I'll point it out when I go through the flip through. So we're going to do the walkthrough of both albums, and then right after that we're going to go right into the tutorial. There are 2 different page styles here, so for me to teach you. So let's start with January, February, and March, which is the first quarter album. What I have done on the cover. So because I used just the collection pack, I tried to use as little extra papers as possible. So I decorated all the inside of my pages, and I only had scraps left to decorate the front cover, which I actually like how it turned out because I get a little bit of everything. I've added some little trim here. The spine is this denim paper that I love to use, and I'm going to show you that real quick. This is what I use. It's by Die Cuts with a View. I actually get this one at Joann. And it comes with 2 different colors. So on my second set of albums, I'm going to use this color denim, and on my first, I use this color. So I love this. I keep this on hand at all times. It's really good for spines because it's very sturdy. It's almost like a fabric material. So I've covered this all the way around, and then on the back again I just collaged all of my scraps, and I love the way it turned out. The only thing I might change is I might add, first quarter or January to March on here, or something to indicate what months it is, so when it's sitting on a shelf you can see that. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. On the front cover, this is where I used the extra Authentique papers. So I will try to remember to link down below which colors that I use so that if you want to duplicate this, you can. Otherwise, you could just use coordinating plain cardstock that you have in your stash to do the covers. So I've added a little cut apart here. I did glue it down all the way. You could even put a little photo up here, would be really cute. And then you can fit several photo mats. I just stuck a 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 one in the pocket. You can do several in there. So here I made a large flap for the calendar. So they are all undated, so you could write the year somewhere and then fill in the dates. So that's super cute. On the opposite side of the flap, I just have a place for a photo, and then here I've added another photo placement and then just decorated it with strips of paper. You can put a photo mat inside here, which I may eventually do, but I used all of my paper to decorate the album, so I didn't have any extra. So I have an angled pocket here, and then it has a cut apart photo mat, another one here in this little pocket, and then I did a photo mat here and put the little January cut apart here. You could put smaller photos or journal in these spaces. So the album is really simple, and what I love about it is this. Each album is going to have its own little journal for every single month. So this is a journal. It's pretty small. I've just decorated it with extra cut aparts. This is an acetate pocket, and it's it's pretty wide, so you can fill this journal up and it's still going to fit in this pocket. There's some room there. So inside the journals, I have just decorated with a cut apart, and I've put my extra cut aparts in here to be used throughout the journal, throughout the year. And then this one is actually, I bound it upside down. So the papers are upside down on accident. So see, my numbers are going the wrong direction. So I've just added some ledger paper. I did coffee dyed paper, but you don't have to do this. You can leave the book out entirely, or you can create the book with just colored cardstock. Would look really cute. So you can write little notes in here about the year, your appointments, whatever you want to do. For my daughter, I like to put packaging from stuff in here, from her toys that she gets, or clothes, just to remember this current time period in her life. I also put photos of, events we've gone to, things we've done together, selfies we've taken together, that kind of thing. And, you could just stick them in the pages of these books. So, super cute. And on the back, it has a pocket as well with some extras. And so I will show you how to create this little book, as well as how to sew the binding in the tutorial. So there is that one, and then we're going to go into February. So we have the calendar. Again, I tried to decorate each page a little bit differently. This one I used a solid piece of the cardstock that came with the collection, little photo mat. I did different pockets for each page of this book, and in this pocket I just have extras, cut aparts. Of course, this is the Valentine's Day theme. And then I added this cute cut apart here. I did some smaller photo mats as well as a full-size one, 4x6. And here is the booklet for this one. I've added just a large cut apart on the front. And again, more cut apart. I can't speak. Cut aparts and stuff to use in the journal. This one is actually the right direction. And again, they all have the same kind of paper, so I will not flip through each one, but I do like to show you the end pockets and cut aparts here. This one is so cute, so you can cut these all apart and use them in your journaling. So that would be super sweet. So then we have March. And then I didn't do my place photo here stamp, but that's a little photo mat, and then I just decorated it a bit, and then a large space for a photo there. I did a corner pocket on this one, and just have extra cut aparts. Aren't these gorgeous? Authentique always has the greatest images. I love it. Have the March cut apart here, another place for a photo, and then here is the March booklet. I love that cut apart. And then on the inside, I have another one that I've made into a pocket. And again, more. And let's see, do I have a pocket? Yes, there's another pocket back here with just tons of great stuff to decorate with. And this just fits neatly back in here. And then on the back cover, I just did the same pocket style. I don't have anything inside this pocket. And then I used a cut apart on the back. And that is it for the first book. So in a minute, after I go through the second one, I'm going to go through the tutorial. But I also wanted to tell you that I'm going to do another book, a fifth book. And I'm going to actually remove the gussets from these pockets, which allow, can you see that gusset, that thick one, that allow these books to fit in here. And I'm just going to do a regular pocket and show you what the album would look like if you use every page style in this series and just do a regular mini album without the journals, if that's something you're interested in. So I'll be showing that as well. It's coming. Okay, here is the second book, and it is a little bit different. Decorated in the same style as far as using my scraps on the front. the cute trim, the denim paper. There is the back. I even used my little angled scraps, and I like the way the triangles look on there, so I thought that was pretty cool. So turn this over. I did a large pocket here, and again, I didn't have time to put extra photo mats in here, but that's what this pocket is for, or just extra photos. On the front here, all these pages are the same, and this unties. And again, I did the calendar page on the front, and then you have this flap. If you want to add photos to it, you can. There's a photo here. This opens up, and you have two places for, I did 4x4 photos here and left this little stamp open so you could tuck your photo underneath. And then I made a pocket with the pattern paper here and just added these cute little tags that came in the collection. And then there is a photo mat. And then this just ties back, and I have to be careful because it's actually tied under or glued underneath this paper, so I have to be gentle and not pull too hard, otherwise it'll tear my paper. Okay, and then you turn this and you have a side pocket here, and I just added another cut apart. But again, you can add multiple photo mats here. And then I have a stacked pocket on the side pocket with more photo mats. And they're all blank on the inside. Okay. I did a photo mat here, and then this is where it holds the journal. So I added a cut apart here, and the journal just slides out of this gusseted pocket. And for the rest of the books, I actually put the cut apart for the month on top of the book because I liked that better. So this one, of course, is April. And on the inside, I just added the pocket. Let's see if I have one. And I don't have one on that side. So I was getting low on my cut aparts for this album. This album's a little bit thicker than the other one. I added a little bit more pockets and flaps. So on this side, we have May. So there's the calendar, and then the photo mat, the flip out. I did 4 photos here. These are 3x4. This one is a photo mat, and then you have another one here. And then, oops. There's the side pocket with the photo mat, and then I stuck a bunch of stuff in here. Little cut aparts. And here's some more. I did 2 photo mats here. These are 4x4s. And then here is this book with May on the top, the little girl on the inside, and then just extras. I love that they did these tags. Those are so cute. Let's see. Nothing on the back there, so just that. And flip this over. And you have, I just decorated the back of it. You could choose to put a photo here if you wish. And then now we're going to go into June. So I give them the calendar. And then the photo mat spot. This is a 4x6. This is a 3x4. I loved this bee paper for Father's Day. And then we have the photo mat. Another one. You could always use the magnet here if you don't like tying the bows. But I was trying to do something without magnets to give you guys options. And then the side pocket, and you can see where I pieced my scraps together to extend my paper. And here, cut aparts, and then here's some more. I love the stamps that they did. Did 2 3x4 photo mats here, but landscape. And then here is the book for June. And I just have a little pocket and nothing on the back. So cute. I love these books. I love the idea of keeping all your journaling for the year in one place. And then I loved this picture with the bee and the roses. And just put some paper there, and then there is the back. And I got a little too excited with my bone folder here, and so if you can see, it ripped my paper just a little bit, so I had to fix it a little bit with my art glitter glue. So I just stuck a bunch of glue in there, and it's good as new. So here I did use the Authentique Spectrum paper on this back cover. And then there's the back. Alright, so let's talk about how to make these. I'm going to go through, let's see. Let me find the first one. So I'm going to go through how to make the pages first, and it's so easy. Y'all will love how easy it is, but they are time consuming just because there's 4 of them. At the end of the video, like after I put the pages together, then I will do how to put the little journals together, and then after that I will show you on camera how to create the album covers this time. So you don't have to watch that if you're already familiar with how to create album covers. Okay, so for the first book, I need to kind of open it so I can remember what I'm doing. Let's talk about the base pages. So you're going to need 2 pieces to start off with. I'm going to get my scissors. I'm going to get my art glitter glue. This is my favorite glue to use, and I do buy it at countrycraftcreations.com. However, it is wintertime and it does not ship in the wintertime, so please be aware of that because it will freeze. I have stocked up on this for the winter, so I have plenty on hand. Okay, so you're going to need, for the first book, you're going to need 3 pieces cut to 6 3/4 by 8 3/4 for your base pages. And then you're going to need 3 pieces cut at 6 3/4 by 9 3/4, and you're going to score on the 9 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. Okay? Now I grab my little bone folder, and we are going to fold on those score lines and give them a good crease. And then I am going to add this on top of here. So I'm just going to add glue to the outside of the flaps. And then we will build our page from there. Oops. I'm getting glue everywhere. Make sure it's straight. You don't have a lot of time when dealing with this glue because it does dry fast. Okay, this will give us a page that looks like this. It's hollow on the inside. Okay, next we are going to add the calendar flap. So this is the flap that goes in the front. Now remember that this page, it has the flap here and then the base page, and then we're going to do an angled pocket on this side, another flap, and then an acetate pocket. Okay, so you know what we're doing here. You're going to cut the calendar flap to 6 1/4 by 6 3/4, and you're going to score on the 6 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Fold on that score line, give it a crease, and I'm going to put my glue on the inside of the flap, and I'm going to center this in the middle, but I'm going to put it on the inside of the base page. So I'm going to center it and put it in the middle. I'm not great always at centering this. Okay, there we go. And there's our first flap. Alright, now we're going to turn this over and we're going to work off of here. First, we're going to go ahead and attach the large flap. So the large flap is cut to 7 1/4 by 8 3/4, and you're going to score on the 7 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Now fold on the score line, and then we're going to miter these corners. So that means that we're just going to snip starting right past the score line at a diagonal to get rid of a little bit of this excess here and to make it easier to put it inside the page. So you're going to add your glue to the inside of the flap, and then you're going to tuck it inside the page just like we did to the other one. Don't go over your score line when you're tucking that in, to prevent that eye to just kind of fold it over, because it just makes sure it folds at a natural angle and that I don't go over the score line. And then go ahead and make sure that's glued down really well. And then we're going to do, okay, so now we have options. I'm only going to do one page with you, so I'm going to show you the different options. Option 1 is the angled pocket. So if you want to do the angled pocket here, you're going to cut your piece to 5 1/4 by 8 1/4. You're going to score on the 5 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 8 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. So you're going to have a little L shape right here. And then I'll show you in a minute how to cut the angle out of it. Okay? Or you could do the bottom pocket. So for that one, you would cut it to 4 3/4 by 7 1/2. Let me make sure I did that. Right. Because this looks small. Let me see. Let me make sure my measurements are right. That one would be right here. Oh yeah, I did leave a gap. Okay, good. So really it would be 7 5/8. Okay, so I did mine 7 1/2, but I'm going to write down here, pocket option 2, 7 5/8, so that I know to fix it. Now it's going to be correct on, if you've already looked at and printed out the cutting guide, it's going to be correct. So I'm just going to change it on my end. Okay, so this is going to be 4 3/4 by 7 5/8. All right. Then you're going to score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 7 5/8 of an inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. All right. That's this pocket, which is just the pocket at the bottom. Or you could do the corner pocket. The corner pocket is 6 3/4 by 6 3/4, and you score at 1/2 inch on all 4 sides. So I'm going to show you how to do each of these. So let's talk about, but I'm only going to glue one of them down. Let's talk about the angled pocket. So we have this angle. Let me measure what I did mine at. I did about 2 1/4. Okay, that was an odd measurement, but whatever. So you have your piece. You're going to miter your corner, which means you're going to cut on the diagonal to get rid of that excess there. And go ahead and fold on your score lines for this one. And then we're going to create our angle. So you're going to put your ruler at the top, and you're going to make a mark at 2 1/4. Just right there. I'm going to do the same thing on the side here. I'm going to put it I'm measuring on the side without the hinge, so it's on this side. Okay, from the bottom to 2 1/4. And now that I have my 2 marks, I'm going to join them together with a line. So I like to put my pencil up here at the top of the first line and then draw it down. Try not to draw on my table. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut that excess off. And that's going to give me my angled pocket, okay? Just like that. I'll kind of erase some of this, okay? So then I'm going to take this and then I would glue it right here. Okay, so I'd have an angled pocket. You just glue it on these 2 sides. Okay, so if you want to do the second option, what you're going to do is you're going to miter your corners and you're just going to glue it down like you would any other pocket. You're going to fold on your score lines. Now remember, the one that I cut here is just a little bit smaller than it should be. But you're going to line up the side of the pocket all the way to the end of the base page. Now mine has a little bit more of a gap right here than it should. There should only be like an 1/8 of an inch gap right here between the pocket and where the flap starts, okay? So you can do that option. Or you could do the final option, which is the corner pocket, which you would take a piece just like this, like we talked about. You're going to take your trimmer and you're going to line it up diagonally and you're going to cut it. Okay? So you have 2 pieces. Now this will actually make 2 pockets, but you only need 1. So you're going to miter that corner at the bottom, and then you're going to fold on the score lines, and actually, yeah, I can turn it, never mind. So I'm going to fold on my score lines, and when you do that, you get those extra little wings that I like to call them, and you're just going to cut those off, lining it up with the pocket edge. Okay? Just like that. So now you'd put your glue here and you would glue it on the bottom like so, and then you have a corner pocket. So you can, I did one for each, a different one for each page. You could do the same one for each page or just whatever you wanted to do. So there's that. Also, if you choose, I'm going to go ahead and glue down the angled pocket so that I can show you the smaller pocket too that I put on top of it, because I did create a smaller pocket. So I'm going to glue my angled pocket down, and then if you want, you can add a small pocket down here at the bottom like I did. So that is cut to 2 1/4 by 5 3/4. You're going to score on the 2 1/4 inch side at 1/2 an inch, and then on the 5 3/4 inch side at 1/2 an inch on each end. You're going to miter the corners. I'm going to fold on the score lines, and then I'm also going to punch a notch into this pocket using my envelope punch board because I like the way that looks. So I'm going to take my envelope punch board, and I already wrote down here what I would normally do is find the center of this piece, and in this case it's 2 3/8. So I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to punch the one that doesn't have the hinge, and I'm going to line it up at 2 3/8, and I'm going to give it a punch. And that gives me that cute little angle. So when you go to mat it, you'll have to do the same thing. You'll have to find the center. You cut your mat to how it would fit. So for example, I would cut the paper to 1/2 by 4 1/2 when I was matting this piece. And then I would find the middle of that and then punch my punch, and then it will mat this perfectly. Okay? So then I'm just going to take my glue and add this to the bottom. And it just gives you a cute extra little pocket. Okay, now this you can decorate however you like. But we are going to turn it over and focus on this large acetate pocket. So this pocket is cut to 6 3/4 by 10 1/4. You're going to score on the 6 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch and then at 3/4 of an inch. So you're going to have 2 score lines. So there's the 1/2 and then the 3/4. And you're going to do that once on the 6 3/4 inch side, and then you're going to do it on the 10 1/4 inch side on each end. Okay. So then to miter your corners, you're going to start off mitering them as normal. So just right across, just like that. And then we're going to do a little something extra. So let's go ahead, do that. Yeah, we can still that. Okay, so you know what? I'm not going to fold this yet. Let's do our, yes I am. Never mind. I'm just going to fold it once. I'm going to fold it on the first score line. So see where this notch, like this little triangle is created on each end? Just like this. Can you see that? It's on both ends. I'm going to cut that out. So this way my pocket folds correctly. Okay, I'm just going to snip it out. Alright. Now to create my window to put my acetate on, I'm going to turn it to the back of the pocket. I'm going to put my glue away for a second so it doesn't dry out. And what I'm going to do is on the sides that have the hinge, which is the 3/4 inch hinge, I'm going to measure over 1.5 inches and draw a line. Since my ruler's 1.5 inches long or wide, I can just put it at the edge and then draw the line, and that works out perfectly for me. Depends on how, if you're using the same ruler, you can do the same. So what I'm going to end up with is a 3/4 inch border all the way around my pocket. If you don't have a Tim Holtz ruler, I highly recommend it. I love these rulers. I have at least 2. So on the parts with the hinge, you needed to do 1.5 inches over in order to get a 3/4 inch border from this score line, okay? But I don't have any score lines on this edge, so I'm just going to measure 3/4 of an inch over. Okay. All right, now I have my little frame, and I'm going to grab my stuff and I'm going to cut it out. Okay. So I'm just going to cut along those lines. Okay. Whoops. I usually save this piece and make photo mats out of it. Okay, now that that's done, that's all we need our little razor blade for. I'm going to take my piece of acetate, which is cut to, let me just make sure. Yeah, okay. Cut it to 5 1/4 by 7 7/8 is what I did mine. And then I went ahead and already added my 1/4 inch tape all the way around. And I'm going to peel that off. And I'm going to stick it down here. Whoops, can't grab a hold of it. Okay. Now you want to make sure you're sticking it down to the back of your pocket. And then I'm just going to make sure that that tape gets a really good seal. You can tell when it's sealed when it changes colors, you know. It almost goes from like a white color to the same color as the paper, a dark brown. So, here we go. Now I'm going to fold on all the score lines. And when you get done folding, you should have this gusset here, which is a 1/4 inch gusset. So if you're going to make the journals that go with this album, you'll need that gusset to make sure that your journals fit. Okay. So this is what you should end up with. And because of the way we cut our corners, it should line up just perfectly on the edge. See? So now I'm going to take my page. And this gets tricky. So what I like to do first is I like to glue the first side down first. First side down first. Does that make sense? I'm going to turn mine. So this is the flap. I'm going to turn it kind of towards me. I'm going to glue this down first. Now I don't want to glue that 1/4 inch part down. Okay? Make sure that you're not gluing that down. I'm only gluing the 1/2 inch hinge down. So even though it's flat when I'm doing this, when I pop it up, this 1/4 inch hinge is still going to be there. See that? It's not glued down. Okay, now I'm going to go in and I'm going to glue the next piece. To me, this is the easiest way I found to do this. Whoops, is glue it just a little bit at a time. So I'm going to take this, sticking this down, and since I can't really get in there, I mean, you can kind of lay it flat a little bit. Okay, I like to take my little bone folder and press it. And then I'm going to do the last one. Okay. I'm going to stick it down. So again, I like to just take this and stick it in here and press it down. Make sure it gets a really good seal. It's almost not long enough, and this is like the longest bone folder they make. I think. Okay. And there is my acetate window. The reason why I chose to add the window here is because, for one, it looks cute, and two, the acetate gives you a little bit more give. So if you really fill up your journal, you'll still have room in this pocket. Okay, so there is the page style for the first book. That's it. So you have your pocket options and the first page. So you'll make 3 just like this for that first book. So let's talk about book 2. Where are my pages for book 2? So if you're new to my channel, make sure that you check out the description box down below. all of the measurements for all of my albums are always listed down there. So you will be able to find them. So you don't have to quickly write them down while I'm talking about them, okay? Okay, so now, well, sure, it's getting in the way. My snowflake. All right, the base pages for this one are the same as the last one, but I'm still going to run through it anyway because I already cut them out. So you're going to need 3 pieces at 6 3/4 by 8 3/4 with no scoring. And then you're going to need 3 pieces at 6 3/4 by 9 3/4, and you're going to score on the 9 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. So let's fold and glue just like before. Now I think this one has a little bit more, it's a little bit more involved than the last one. The last one I created pretty simply. On the second one, I went a little more crazy. Okay, and I'm going to glue this down. Okay, now to give you a refresher as to what the page looks like, you're going to have this flap and then another flap. On the other side of this flap is an angled pocket, and then you have the side pocket, the stacked pocket, and then the booklet flap. So, like I said, a little bit more going on here. So now we're going to do the other, let's see, flap, which my stuff is kind of slightly out of order. So let me fix this quickly. Okay. This flap is cut to 5 1/4 by 8 3/4, and you're going to score on the 5 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then fold on that score line. And we're going to miter the corners so that it fits nicely inside of our base page. Okay. I'm going to put the glue on the inside. And stick it down. Okay, then you're going to open this up, and then we're going to put the flap on this side. So this one is the calendar flap at 6 1/4 by 6 3/4. Score on the 6 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch. Go ahead and fold that one on the score line and add your glue to the inside of the hinge. And in this one, we are going to tuck this one just like before, and in the middle, center it as much as possible. Okay. So you end up with this. And then we're going to put an angled pocket here. So I don't remember what I cut my angled pocket to. So let me open this up quickly and just give it a look. Let's see. I cut this. I did 2 inches on this one instead of 2 1/4 like last time. Okay. Now I know. So now you're going to take your angled pocket. You're going to cut this to 5 inches by 7 inches. Score on the 5 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 7 inch side at 1/2 inch. So you're going to have an L shape here. Miter your corner. And then fold on your score lines. And on this one, so my hinges are on this side this time, So I'm going to measure on the opposite side. Let's see, what's the easiest way to do this? I'm going to measure 2 inches up, make my mark, and then 2 inches. I'm actually going to measure 2 inches from the hinge. So the hinge is here, 2 inches. And then I'm going to connect those lines. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut that off. If you've been with me for a while, you know how to do these. I've been doing angled pockets for quite some time now. Okay, now this pocket is going to go right here on the inside. So we're going to add our glue. And stick it down. Okay, so there is the front. Now let's turn this over and let's talk about the back. So first I'm going to add the flap. So the first flap, that's the pocket, is going to be 5 inches by 8 3/4. Then you're going to score on the 5-inch side at 1/2 inch and then at 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to go ahead and fold on those score lines. And I'm going to miter, but you're only going to miter on the 1/2 inch flap. So I'll show you that in a minute once So see how I didn't touch that 1/4 inch flap gusset at all? So it's going to look like this when you fold it. You're still going to have that full length on that side and then the corners on that one. So I'm going to add my glue to the inside of the flap and tuck it in. Make sure you do not go over that 1/2 inch score line. You want to leave that 1/4 inch gusset. So it's going to look like this. Okay. Now let's do the side pocket. The side pocket is 4 3/4 by 9 3/4. Score on the 4 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 9 3/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. Miter your corners and fold on all your score lines. And we're going to glue this one down. Okay, and then I'm going to add the side pockets. So we're going to do 2 stacked pockets at 3 1/4 by 5 1/4 inch. You're going to score on the 3 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch, and then on the 5 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch on each end. Miter the corners for each one. But just note that you're going to fold them differently. For the first one, you're going to fold on all the score lines. And I'm also going to punch the notches in these like I did for the other pocket. So I'll show you that in a minute. For the second one, you're only going to fold the 2 side flaps and leave the bottom flap unfolded. So the middle of these, we need to punch these at 2 1/8, which is what I wrote down. I measured that ahead of time. Okay. The first pocket where we folded all of the hinges in, we're going to add our glue. And we're going to stick it on this side pocket, line it up, and glue it down. The second pocket, we're just going to add the glue to the first 2 hinges that we folded in. Then we're going to put this flap inside this pocket and then stick it down. Okay? Alright, so now we have our 2 stacked pockets with the notches. You can see it there. And now I'm going to close this because then we're going to add our last pocket that's going to hold the journal onto this side. So I'm going to put that aside for a second. Let's talk about this one. You're going to cut this one to 5 inches by 10 1/4 inch. You're going to score on the 5-inch side at 1/2 inch and then at 3/4 inch. And then you're going to score on the 10 1/4 inch side at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch on each side. Okay, now we're going to do the corners like we did before. We are going to cut straight across just like normal, just like you're mitering the corner of a regular pocket. Just cut on the diagonal. And then here we do have these little corner marks again, these little triangles. We're going to cut those out. See that? We're going to cut those out. Just 2 little snips. Same thing on this side. And now we're going to fold on all of our score lines. Okay, so that gives us that nice little corner that almost turns into a little box right there. Okay, see that? I'll do it on both sides. So we're going to take this pocket and we're only going to glue down the 1/2 inch hinges just like before right on top of this flap. Now I'm going to do it just like I did before, just a little bit at a time because I find that the easiest to do. I'm going to start with that first 1/2 inch flap and I'm going to line it up at the top and glue. Make sure you're lining it up at the top of the edge of this flap because this flap, this one has a gusset as well and you don't want to glue on that gusset. Okay? So it will look like that little box. So now I'm going to glue the next one down. It's a little tricky here, gluing these down with the gussets. Like I said, I like to get my bone folder in there, make sure it's gluing down like it's supposed to. So this one is going to end up looking like this. You're going to have 2 of those 1/4 of an inch gussets. Whoops, I'm folding something there. Wasn't supposed to. Alright, this is not one to stick here at the bottom because I'm moving it too much. Now you're going to glue this final flap down. I like to stick my bone folder in there all the way and just kind of press down. Make sure that it's lining up. Mine's a little bit overlapping a little bit. That's okay. I'm going to fix it. A little bit of time before that glue sets. Okay, and there we go. There is our pocket, our little box pocket for our journal. And that's it. Super easy. So there's the page style for the second book. Now, let's talk about the journals. So, if you want to create the journals, they are easy, but there's some prep work involved, okay? So, you're going to want, what I did is I took a craft piece of cardstock and 8.5 by 11. So you're going to want 7 pieces of 8.5 by 11 paper. You can use whatever you want. They don't have to be coffee dyed. It doesn't have to be ledger paper. It could just be colored cardstock, or it could be white cardstock. Really just whatever you want it to be. I like to round the corners of mine. So I'm going to do that now. So I just fold it and round the corners like so. Just those 2 corners like that. So I took 6 pages of 8.5 by 11 sheets and I folded them in half. Some of it is coffee dyed, some of it is ledger, and some of it is, this is my digital, like printable paper. It looks like coffee dyed paper, but it's just a digital printable. I can't get this to cut. Doesn't want to miter my corner today. So I'm going to do this to all 6 pages. And then you arrange them how you want. And I like to have at least one page that is shorter than the rest just to add interest. So that's what I've done with my ledger paper here. Just a little bit shorter. So I'm going to add these pieces together how I like them. So I like to do like, I don't know, coffee dyed, and then the shorter ledger piece. Make sure my numbers are correct. And then maybe this little printable page. Then I'm going to add a coffee dyed again. Maybe this other printable page, and then my last piece of ledger paper. Okay? And then I'm going to take these and add them into my cover. So this is 6 sheets folded in half of various papers. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center, and I'm going to line up my papers, and I'm going to clip them together. Let me use the small clips. Just like this. And so I want to talk to you about this template. So I use this template to punch the holes in my journal. So to create this template, you need to cut a piece of cardstock at about 2 inches. And then you're going to score right down the middle at 1 inch. And then you're just going to fold it. So what I did here is I do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. That's what I do for all my journals. So what I did is I took this piece of paper, cut to 2 inches by 8.25, and then I scored on the 2-inch side at 1 inch, and then I folded it in half, and then I made my marks down the center. So the first mark, I measured the middle. Let me zoom in. Okay, that's as far as I can go. So I create 5 even marks on this piece. So the first mark was at 4 1/8, which is right here in the middle, and I made a dot. So for these 2 marks, I just measured a 1/2 inch in from the edge. So 1/2 inch mark, 1/2 inch mark, okay? And then for these 2 marks, I measured from the 1/2 inch mark to the center and found the center of that one, which is, mine was about 1 7/8. And so I put a mark there, okay? At 1 7/8. And then I did the same right here. And that'll give you your 5 marks. And then what you want to do is take your awl or paper piercer, whatever you have, and you want to punch a hole where you made those marks all the way down. And this will be your template to create the holes in your book. So now I'm going to take the book that I paper clipped together with my pages, and I usually like to use just like an old catalog. In my case, it's like a Bass Pro catalog. And I'm going to open it up to a page, and I'm going to stick my book inside this, and then I'm going to stick my template inside that, inside the middle. And I'm just going to hold it right there. And then I'm going to take my awl and I'm going to punch my holes, just like I did in my template. You're going to do this for all 12 books. So see, now I have holes in my book. So that's all you need this for. And you don't need your template anymore either. That's done. So I like to use waxed thread. So I'm going to take a length of thread, and I don't measure it. I just guess and cut. I'm going to take my needle. You can use any needle that will work. I like to use these larger needles. And I will put a link down below to the Amazon kit that I purchased when I started making journals. That includes the needles and everything, but you really don't need anything fancy. So you don't have to purchase anything new. You can just use what you have on hand, okay? So now I have my needle and my thread. So how you're going to sew this is you're going to stick your needle, open up your book, stick your needle in that center hole, and then pull it out. And then you're going to want to leave a length of thread behind. So I do, about that much. Can you see that? Maybe I should use a different color besides white. And then, so you have these 5 holes punched here. You're going to put your needle inside the next hole up. Okay? I have a hole here and I have a hole here. So I want it in this one. And I'm going to pull. Now, don't pull so much that this thread comes out. Make sure this stays. If you like, you can even put like a little paper clip or something there to make sure it doesn't move. And then you're going to go from here to the top hole and put your needle in there and pull it out. Okay? And now we're going to go from here back through the same hole that we went through that first time. Right here, the second one. Okay? And we're going to come up through that. Now we're going to skip the center hole and then go through the second to the last hole and put your needle through. And I like to kind of place it correctly. Alright, so now your thread's on the outside. Now you're going to put your needle into the last hole and pull it tight. Ugh. So from here, we're going to go back into that second from the last hole, okay, and pull it. Now at this point, I'm going to take this clip out because I'm going to come up through the center hole now, okay. So now through the center and pull. Now, I like to have one piece of string on each end of this middle string here. So, and then you're just going to tie that in a knot. So we're done with our needle and thread and all. I'm going to cut this and I'm going to pull this tight and I'm going to knot the thread. And I wish I would have used a different color. I didn't realize that the white wouldn't show up because I was thinking of the craft cardstock. And so that's what we have. And now it's bound. See that thread on the end? I'm going to take my clips out. And there's your booklet. And then you can decorate it. I liked to mount a piece of, I cut apart on cardstock and then I just glued it down on two sides here to create a pocket is all I did. And then you can decorate it and write in it as you want. So, cute. That's how I did all of the books. All right, last thing on the agenda. Let's talk about the covers. So if you know how to create a cover, you don't have to watch this part. If you're new, then tune in. Let's talk about creating a cover. All right, so I have all my pieces here. I'm going to zoom out again a couple times. There we go. Now, I have all my cover pieces. I have two cut at 7 3/4 by 9 1/4, and I have one cut at 2 inches by 9 1/4. This is the same size for all 4 albums. So the next 2 albums will be coming soon. So I won't do an album cover in the second video, only this one. Now I need 2 pieces of cardstock to cover my albums with. So I'm going to take my 2 pieces of cardstock, and I always cut my cardstock. I leave it at 12 inches and then cut it 2 inches longer than what my chipboard is. So in this case, it's going to be 11 1/4. So I'm going to take my trimmer and cut it to 11 1/4. And I'm going to do that to both pieces. And then I'm going to join these pieces together. Let me move all my chipboard out of the way. I'm going to measure about a 1/2 inch over. And I'm going to join them together. Now what I like to do to make sure that this crease is on the spine is, well, first I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure 1 inch all the way across here at the bottom to make sure I'm lining my chipboard up correctly at the bottom. You want everything to be even. Okay. I'm going to take my spine piece, and I've already added some tape to it. So I'm going to take this. I always add tape to the perimeter of the chipboard pieces. And I always add glue. And I'm going to line up my chipboard piece. You see the 1 inch line I drew? I'm going to line it up here, right in the middle of that crease. Because I want to make sure that that crease doesn't fall in a place that I don't want it. So I just go ahead and prevent that from happening altogether by gluing it right down the middle of my chipboard. I always do that. Okay, and you can even turn it over and give it a good press. Okay, now I'm going to take my 1/4 of an inch score tape and I'm going to lay a piece of it on either side of my chipboard. And I'm going to butt it up right against there. Okay, then I'm going to take my other piece and I'm going to remove all of the score tape. And like I said, I like to add glue. I'm going to line it up at the bottom and right up against that score tape. So I'm using that line that I drew at the bottom. Make sure I get it straight. Then I'm going to press it down. Okay, now at this point, since I know I don't need this much excess on the side, I like to go ahead and draw a 1-inch line from the chipboard, like so. I'm going to cut this little excess off. Then I'm going to do it on the other side in a minute too. And this doesn't have to be neat. It's going to be covered up anyway, so nobody cares. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. Go ahead and glue this down. I can't get the bone folder in there to get that off. Okay, same thing on this side. Gonna line it up, stick it down. I like to turn it over onto this side. Really give it a good press. Okay. Then I'm going to cut my excess off by measuring just 1 inch over. Maybe this time I'll actually use my trimmer since it is right here. And just, it's easier. Okay, now I'm going to remove my score tape backing and I'm going to use my 3/8 of an inch score tape and I'm going to go all the way around the perimeter of the chipboard. And I like to do this on both sides. Sometimes I use 1/4 of an inch tape right here instead of the 3/8 of an inch. I'm just being lazy right now. And this little green square thing, I'm just using it to cut my tape. You don't have to have it. You can use whatever you want to cut your tape. I just find it easier. It's actually called the Perfect Trim Ruler. And you can find it at theperfecttrimruler.com if you are so inclined. But you can really use anything to cut your tape. I just find this convenient. Okay, almost done. Whoops. Okay. Now I'm done with my score tape. And I'm going to give this a good press all the way around. We want that tape to make sure it is secured to the paper. The best way to do that is by really pressing down on it. Whoops. Okay, now I'm going to miter the corners, which just means I'm going to do just like we do when we create a pocket, but I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch gap right here, because you want to make sure that you get enough paper to fold over and tuck in that corner so that the corners of your chipboard, the bare corner of your chipboard, doesn't show, because then that would be ugly. Now this takes some practice at first. I've been doing it for quite some time, so I feel like I have it down. But you might need to do it a couple times before you get it. Okay, now I like to take my paper and just fold like so. I'm just folding because this is going to fold over, right? So I'm just gently kind of getting the paper ready to fold on both sides, breaking some of those fibers, and I like to do it on all the sides. Okay. The more you kind of work the paper slowly and break the fibers, the less likely you'll have breaking in your cover. So now I'm going to go ahead and take these off, and then I also take the sides off because it's going to overlap that. Okay, and then I like to use glue. So I'm going to take my glue and I'm going to give it a good squiggle throughout here. And then I'm going to start folding it over with my hands and just working it down. Okay. And then I'm going to stick it down. Okay. Then I'm going to flip it. I'm going to do the same on the other side, and then I'll go to the edges. I'm going to give it a good squiggle, fold, and press. And just make sure that you use your bone folder to press all that in. Okay. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to slowly lift up the cover, and I'm going to really get this paper. I'm going to press it into those gussets where that tape is. Okay. So it will stick. And then I'm going to do the edges. So I'm going to take my bone folder. I like to take the end of it. That's why it kind of looks jagged. And I'm going to press this paper in on both sides. Just kind of folding the paper around that corner. Okay. And then I'm going to fold this up a little bit. Okay. And we're almost done with our cover. Can you believe how fast that was? Once you get used to doing it, it goes really fast. This happens to be, I know it's a lot of people's favorite part to do the construction of the album. It's my least favorite part. I like to decorate the pages. Alright, the same thing, just folding this paper in around this chipboard, getting a good crease before I fold it in. So I also included measurements on how I do the binding, which is how you're going to attach your pages to the book. So that's what the binding is, attaching your pages to the book. So those measurements are in the description box down below. And there are several videos on YouTube on how to fold and create binding systems. So I'm not going to include that here in order to keep the video fairly short. So here's my cover. That's it. Super easy. All you have to do is create the binding and then glue it right here and then add your pages. So super easy. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. And I have 2 more books to come. One is already done. I only have 1 more left to do. And so maybe if I can try, I might be back next week with the final review of the last 2 albums. So please check back. Please visit countrycraftcreations.com. I will list all the products that I used on these albums in the links down below. So check that out, please. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.